Hi, welcome to EPG Pathshala Spanish. We are learning intermediate grammar, and in this paper we have seen many modules which are related to different aspects of Spanish grammar. In this module, we will be talking about the relative pronouns. So the objective of this module is to take you through the necessary linking elements in order to make longer speech units and to join related thought patterns. So, by relative pronouns, you will be learning the necessary linking elements to make longer speech units and to join related thought patterns. The relative pronouns will enable you to make your Spanish a lot more interesting. So, by learning relative pronouns, we can be making our communication much more interesting and communicative. Relative pronouns may refer to people, things, actions, events, or ideas. So, relative pronouns may refer to people, things, actions, events, or ideas. However, the correct pronoun should be selected carefully to convey the proper message. Let us have a look at the relative pronouns que and quien in the following sentences. So, the relative pronouns que and quien are going to be dealt with in examples. El bolígrafo que está en la mesa es rojo. The pen that is on the table is red. El bolígrafo que está en la mesa es rojo. So, the relative pronoun that we have used is que. The pen that is on the table is red. El médico quien va a recibir el premio está aquí. The doctor who is going to receive the prize is here. El médico quien va a recibir el premio está aquí. So we had used que in the previous sentence where we were talking about the polígrafo, and when we are talking about the médico, then we are talking about quien as the relative pronoun. The antecedent of the relative pronoun quien is always a person. So when we are using the relative pronoun quien, there always has to be a person. Remember that in English, relative pronouns that, which, who, whom are not necessarily included in a complex sentence. So we have to observe the English equivalent of the following example. La casa que compramos es grande. The house we bought is big. La casa que compramos es grande. Now, let us talk about que, which is the most common relative pronoun in Spanish, especially in day-to-day communication, which is que, the equivalent of that. The antecedent of que is never omitted in Spanish. We use que in a relative clause that refers to people, animals, things, ideas, or events in the singular and plural. So remember, we use que to refer to people, animals, things, ideas, or events in the singular and plural. La mujer que sale del estadio ahora es muy famosa. The woman who is leaving the stadium now is very famous. La mujer que sale del estadio ahora es muy famosa. The next example that we are going to deal is no queremos a la fiesta que organizan los estudiantes. We do not want to attend the party that the students are organizing. No queremos ir a la fiesta que organizan los estudiantes. The second place where we use que is where it functions as the subject of a clause. So wherever que functions as the subject of the clause, we use que. In the following example, que referring back to el guía functioned as the subject of the verb llevó in the relative or dependent clause. Este es el guía que lo llevó al museo. This is the guide who took him to the museum. So, que is referring back to el guía, which is functioning as the subject of the verb llevó in the relative dependent clause. Este es el guía que lo llevó al museo. Another place where we use que is where it functions as the object of a clause. In the example given, which que refers to the indirect object, which is al médico of the verb recomiendo in the main clause. Que functions as the direct object of the verb llamamos in the relative dependent clause. So, nosotros implied is the subject of the relative clause. Te recomiendo al médico que llamamos ayer. I recommend you to the doctor whom we called yesterday. Te recomiendo al médico que llamamos ayer. Quien, on the other hand, the English pronouns who and whom are the equivalents of quien and the plural form of quienes. This relative pronoun, which refers only to people, is not used as frequently as que. It may appear in written language to clarify the identity of the antecedent. Sometimes it is equivalent of whoever. We use quien, quienes instead of que when the antecedent is a person. In a dependent clause, as where it functions as the subject of a verb. So, I repeat, we use quien or quienes instead of que when the antecedent is a person in a dependent clause where it functions as the subject of a verb. In the following example, Ali is the subject of the verb invita. Ali is the subject of the verb invita. The relative pronoun quien in the dependent clause is the subject of es. Ali, quien es un socio, me invita a su boda. Fernando, who is a partner, is inviting me to his wedding. The object of a verb in the example is quienes is preceded by the preposition a quienes. This construction parallels the antecedent in the main clause al don Gregorio, which contains the contraction of the preposition a plus the definite article el. A quienes is the object of the verb vimos. Saludamos al don Gregorio y su esposa a quienes vimos ayer. We said hello to Don Gregorio and his wife whom we saw yesterday. Saludamos al Don Gregorio y su esposa a quienes vimos ayer. The clause introduced with quien or quienes is separated from the main clause with commas. El que and el qua are the relative pronoun forms of que with a definite article el que, los que, la que and las que, and the set of forms el cual, los cuales, la cual and las cuales are interchangeable. They can be translated as that, which, who and whom in English. So, whenever we want to use that, which, who and whom in English, we use either el que, los que, la que and las que, or el cual, los cuales, la cual and las cuales. You already know how to use que and quienes or quien, and that is why we can move on to use the alternate forms, which are el que, los que, la que and las que, and el cual, los cuales, la cual and las cuales. They add variety to a context that requires the use of many relative pronouns. We use these forms in dependent clause in the following ways. Where it functions as the subject of a verb. El autor de 100 años de soledad es Gabriel García Márquez. el cual escribió otras novelas. The author of Cien Años de Soledad is Gabriel García Márquez, who wrote other novels. El autor de Cien Años de Soledad es Gabriel García Márquez, el cual escribió otras novelas. We also use it where it functions as the object of a verb. In the following example, el que is preceded by the preposition a. Al que, paralleling a. Ramón in the main clause. Saludamos a Ramón, el amigo de Ali, al que vimos ayer. We said hello to Ramón, Ali's friends, whom we saw yesterday. Saludamos a Ramón, el amigo de Ali, al quien vimos ayer. We can also use where you have two antecedents. In this usage, these forms refer to the person physically further away from the pronoun in the sentence. So, when you are referring to a person physically further away from the pronoun in the sentence, then we use these antecedents. Cervantes es el autor de Don Quijote, el cual escribió otras novelas. Cervantes is the author of Don Quixote, who wrote other novels. Cervantes es el autor de Don Quijote, el cual escribió otras novelas. Remember that quién or quiénes and el que, los que, la que or las que are also used as the indefinite subject of a verb. Their equivalents are he who, those who, etc. Quien espera, desespera. He who waits loses hope. Lo que and lo cual. This is another usage where we are going to be talking about the antecedents of lo que and lo cual, interchangeable forms, are always ideas. They are not used very frequently in speech and are used in writing much more. Their English equivalents are that which, what, or whatever. Note the following rules when using lo que or la cual, which are interchangeable. Use lo que or lo cual to refer to a statement, concept, or idea previously mentioned. Siempre viene después de medianoche lo que nos irrita. He always comes after midnight, which irritates us. Siempre viene después de medianoche lo que nos irrita. The idea of calling after a certain inappropriate hour is understood or summed up in lo que. Remember that lo cual could also have been used here without any problems. We use lo que also to refer to a statement, concept, or idea that is understood because it has been previously discussed. Lo que te dijo no es mentira. What he told you is not a lie. Lo que te dijo no es mentira. We also use relative pronouns after prepositions. Relative pronouns function as objects of a verb when they are used after prepositions. That we should keep in mind that direct object answers the questions what, who, and whom. Castigaron al ladrón a quien descubrieron robando la tienda. They punished the thief whom they discovered robbing the shop. Castigaron al ladrón a quien descubrieron robando la tienda. El que, los que, la que, las que, and el cual, los cuales, la cual, and las cuales may be used after any preposition. Abrimos la ventana desde la cual vemos la calle. Abrimos la ventana desde la cual vemos la calle. We open the window from which we see the street. Que may follow the prepositions a, de, and con if que does not refer to a person. So, if you're not referring to a person, then you can use the prepositions a, de, and con. Este es el estadio en que jugaron. This is the stadium in which they played. Este es el estadio en que jugaron. Que may follow the preposition de when the antecedent is a person. Aquí entra el señor de que hablamos. Here comes the gentleman about whom we talked. Aquí entra el señor de que hablamos. Quienes and quién and el que refer to people and may follow any preposition. El estudiante con quienes tienes que practicar la obra es de China. El estudiante con quien tienes que practicar la obra es de China. The student with whom you have to practice the theatre is from China. Cuyo, cuyos, cuya, cuyas mean whose. These are forms of a relative adjective referring to persons and things. They precede the noun, they modify, and must agree in gender and number with that noun. So, cuyo, cuyos, cuya, and cuyas mean whom, and they are forms of a relative adjective referring to persons and things. Esta es la casa cuya popularidad es de mucha fama. This is the house whose popularity is of much fame. Lakhan es un cantante cuyos álbums se venden bien. Lakhan is a singer whose albums are selling well. Lakhan es un cantante cuyos álbums se venden bien. So, one way to recognize and to view relative pronouns is to recognize that they combine two sentences that share a common noun. So, whenever you want to combine two sentences that share a common noun, we use relative pronouns. So, in the following example, the common noun is milk or leche. ¿Dónde está la leche? Where is the milk? Compraste leche. You bought milk. So, the complete sentence in Spanish would be ¿Dónde está la leche que compraste? Where is the milk that you bought? ¿Dónde está la leche que compraste? Another way to view relative pronouns is to recognize that they are used to introduce a clause that modifies a noun. In the following example, the clause I finished last night modifies the noun book. Terminé el libro anoche. I finished the book last night. Terminé el libro anoche. Or the other example is el libro es muy extenso. The book is very long. El libro que terminé anoche es muy extenso. The book that I finished last night is very long. El libro que terminé anoche es muy extenso. So, we can see that the most common relative pronoun and the one used in the previous two examples is que. It can be used to refer to both persons and things in either the subject or the object position. Que is the Spanish equivalent of the English words who, whom, which, and that. So, Spanish que in English can be translated as who, whom, which, and that. El hombre que es pobre, person subject, the man who is poor. Los libros que son extensos, thing subject, the books which are long. La señorita que conocí, person object, the young lady whom I met. La carta que leíste, thing object, the letter that you read. The relative pronoun is often omitted in English but is never omitted in Spanish. So, la casa que compramos es nueva. The house we bought is new. In English, we can have the house we bought is new, but in Spanish it is always the house that we bought is new. La casa que compramos es nueva. El programa que miraba era cómico. The show I was watching was comical. El programa que miraba era cómico. Que can also be used together with the prepositions a, con, de or en to form phrases like at which, in which, to which, etc. A que, to which, con que, with which, de que, of which, about which, en que, in which, and at which. So, to use these expressions properly, you need to have a basic understanding of English grammatical rules governing prepositions. Spanish has a much more rigid grammatical structure than English in many cases. When it comes to prepositions, you just can't let them dangle in Spanish. So now we are going to compare some sentences in this video. Informal structure and formal structure. The person I went with was late. The person with whom I went was late. The restaurant we went to was busy. The restaurant to which we went was busy. The topic we talked about was boring. The topic about which we talked about was boring. In Spanish, you must use the formal structure. It is impossible to form sentences in Spanish using the informal structure in the first column. So, in Spanish, we have to use the formal structure. It is a rule. It is impossible to form sentences in Spanish using the informal structure in the first column. Look again at the first pair of sentences and compare these two direct translations into Spanish. Informal structure and formal structure. La persona fui con estaba atrasada. La persona con quien fui estaba atrasada. In Spanish, we have to use la persona con quien fui estaba atrasada. The first sentence makes no sense in Spanish. It is grammatically incorrect. The second sentence is correct. If you usually speak grammatical English, you will find this quite easy. If you are an ordinary English speaker, you may find that learning how to use prepositions properly in Spanish is a bit difficult at first. If it seems a bit confusing, remember that a similar grammatical rule governs the constructions of questions in Spanish. Who am I speaking to? To whom am I speaking? ¿Con quién hablo? Who are you going with? With whom are you going? ¿Con quién vas? Where are you going? To where are you going? ¿A dónde vas? Again, Spanish always uses the formal structure, and as a result, you'll never find a Spanish sentence that ends with a preposition. Quien is used to refer to people. It can mean who, whom, or that, and is often used with the prepositions a, con, and de. A quien, who, whom, to whom. Con quien, with whom, and de quien, about whom or that. Remember that quien reflects the quantity of the subject to which it refers. If its object is plural, quien becomes quienes. So, with a plural object, quien becomes quienes. So, to conclude, we would like to say that we have tried to cover everything about relative pronouns in this module, but we need to do more exercises to learn how to use them properly. Go to the section of self-assessment and do the exercises so that once you learn, these applications are widely used in the Spanish language and you can communicate much better in Spanish. Thank you. Gracias.